But during that trying time, a number of times I sat in meditation. I was like so confused. My mind was not working, and clear guidance came. So clear that I had to, like, no doubts, with some kind of a suspicion towards spiritual practices. Fear is the right word. Of a parent sees, "Arey, kahin ye bachcha kahin brahmachari to na ban jaye, sannyas na le le." Doing the pranahuti or ahuti of that, it means transmitting the essence of life from one self to into other self, from one heart into the another heart. And that's is a real thing, is something to be experienced. Do not take my word. As I say in Heartfulness, nothing is belief based. Absolutely, you bang on. It's a $1 million question, a $1 billion question, right?
Yeah.
But I will answer with one question to you only. Okay?
Sure.
So tell me, what, according to you, is the purpose of a seed? Heartfulness is a one step beyond the mind. So heartfulness is really shifting the focus from the cognitive only mind to the feeling centered heart. Feelings always come from the heart. The living guide currently for heartfulness his name is Kamlesh D. Patel. Also, affectionately, he goes by Daji. He lives in Kana Shanti Vanam, which is the world headquarters for the heartfulness. External world is always changing.
Yeah.
In fact, the rate of change is increasing at a madness pace. It's a VUCA world, increasing at a very, very high pace. So I believe today and for future, a practice like this will become a need or a survival need for human beings to remain grounded and connected.
Hello, friends. Leadership today is not just about strategy and performance. It's also about inner clarity and balance. Our guest today, Vishal Gautam, is a senior corporate leader and a dedicated practitioner of heartfulness meditation. Through this meditation practice, he has discovered a way to stay grounded, make thoughtful decisions, and navigate the pressure of corporate world. In this conversation, we explore how meditation became part of his journey and how it has influenced both his life and leadership. Vishal, welcome to the Awakening Trail and Namaste.
Namaste, Priyanka. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's our pleasure that you agreed to do this recording with us today, Vishal. Thank you so much. Let's start from the beginning, right? Tell us a little bit about yourself and especially, slowly dwell into the topic how heartfulness meditation got in your life.
Sure, absolutely. So about myself, since I'm an ordinary person, I live in Bangalore. I have a family, my wife, my parents, and I have two beautiful kids. One in college already. Actually, one is out of college and one has gone into college.
Okay.
And that's my personal aspects. I am a working professional now, about 28 years in the industry, in the security domain. I work for a company called Zscaler, which is a world-renowned leader in the cloud-native based cyber and AI security. And as you mentioned, heartfulness practice has been the bedrock for me, a kind of a foundational practice which has given me the foundations and the aspirations. It has kind of set a journey, a goal, a purpose for my life. Yes.
That's wonderful. And I must admit, today, episode, I'm so looking forward. I'm so looking forward to this conversation to learn from you how to stay calm because many a times there are situations where I don't stay myself calm. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because your role with Zscaler is really crucial, right? You are one of the senior leaders. So, how does that work, Vishal?
Absolutely. And I'm also looking forward to the conversation. There's always a mutual learning out of this. So, to coming to the calmness, and this is something I hear from others. First thing they notice is the calmness, and I attribute completely to the practice of meditation and
Mm-hmm.
what it does from inside. As you said the word grounded, that grounding, I guess that is the key. um, And if I really look at it, we are normally, very outward focus. And I was also until I started the meditation practice.
Hmm.
For everything, every endeavor, focus, my efforts, my everything thoughts would first go, what can I do in the external world? It would
Yeah.
start with, studying to, work and job and, getting a house or all of those things. Little did I put thoughts or efforts inward until I started, and I'll come to that, meditation practice. And the fundamental change that came gradually, it's not an instant one thing that changes, is a discovery of inner world, which is so vast, first of all,
Hmm.
and which is so personal. What I mean by personal, we start identifying ourselves more and more from the qualities that are inside me, as opposed to the qualities those are superficial to me.
Okay.
What I mean by that, for example, if I graduated as a engineering graduate, that's a quality from outside, superficial. Okay, I am so and so background. I from this college. I hail from this city. All of these, or I work for this company, or I earn this, whatever degree or a professional status. They're still at a surface level. But with a good foundational spiritual practice, my grounding, my identification more and more starts happening with the spirit or the essence that I carry from within me,
Okay.
and that grounding is what brings the calmness. To give you a long answer, because you are always connected with the unchanging self, the eternal self, which doesn't change. But the outward world, external world, is always changing.
Yeah.
In fact, the rate of change is increasing at a madness pace. It's a VUCA world, increasing at a very, very high pace. So I believe today and for future, a practice like this will become a need or a survival need for human beings to remain grounded and connected. Then only we can face and overcome the fast changing external world.
Sure.
To put you a long answer, but that's
Yeah.
my understanding. Yes, yes.
No, no, that's beautiful actually. But at the same time, I'm trying to be practical here before we delve deeper into what we haven't even started what heartfulness meditation is. But I still would love to pick up certain examples, right?
Mhm.
Before we move into heartfulness meditation conversation. Many a times, you find your boss being difficult. I'm taking one practical example, right?
Yes.
Or other way around as well, it becomes so difficult to handle your team member or your subordinates, your peers. There is peer pressure, there is diplomacy, there is politics, there is so much more that happens around you. I understand that you're saying that instead of not looking outwards, but for a common man or for an individual who is not into a practice, it is,
Mhm.
or even somebody who is into certain practice of meditation, it becomes difficult. So how do you handle that pressure, and what
Right.
is it that is different for you,
Mhm.
which is not maybe as simple or as easy for other individuals?
Got it. A very good question, Priyanka. About, I wouldn't say I have something special, or anything unique. Everybody has their style, different ways of connecting.
Absolutely.
But I would say my understanding in such situation, what has helped me is to go beyond the surface
Okay.
into the need of the person. The person
Hmm.
could be my superiors, my boss, my peer, or my subordinate. Often, we are not very good, at least I am, I can tell, in articulating what is going inside me,
Hmm.
the feeling that is going inside me. And particularly, I would say I have lived in US, United States for 15 years, and I can see the cultural differences. Generally, the Americans are so good. I used to just marvel at listening the way they articulate of a
Yeah.
situation or of what they're going through. It's like, wow, I can't do this. Over time it probably has developed, but by culturally itself, we are not trained to express our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I think the key lies there. Our
Okay.
feelings hold the secret of what is going inside me or the other person. I'll come to the meditation part later on, how that helps. But if I'm able to go beyond the surface of words or choice of gestures or the expression the other person uh, is doing at that moment, let's say the person is angry and they are using, of course, words which are maybe not very pleasant for me to listen to. Maybe they are accusing me directly. So the natural tendency is to get entangled. Hey, how he could say this to me? I never said that. And how he could, and just you can just get entangled and shot back, and you stop listening. Versus, imagine if I'm able to hold my composure and allow the other person to continue, and I'm able to not get distracted or entangled into the superficial or surfacial expression, and I start probing into why this person might be thinking like this, what has gone wrong, what is going inside this person, what is that this person needs. And if I am able to hit that part and subsequently in my conversation connect to that layer of the need aspect of that person, that's where the connection happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the empathetic connection. And I believe that is the key to handle situations, because then you are dealing heart to heart and the other person recognizes, okay, he understands my need. And, and then the real listening or speaking happens. Otherwise, in emotions, if we get entangled at the superficial level, there is no listening, there is no exchange, there is no conversation, there is no connection. And
Yeah.
that's what the problem actually exacerbates, or it doesn't move any forward. That is the key to me, to always go behind the scene, what's going on inside the person. Um, and meditation has helped me in this regard tremendously.
That's wonderful. So I think it is predominantly to do, to compose yourself and understand why a certain person is behaving in a certain way, rather than responding or rather than reacting, to the at the surface level, as you rightly said. So that's really great. So I think now we have set the context about who you are, your professional background, and we now by know that you're following heartfulness meditation. So can you take us through the journey? How did heartfulness meditation entered your life? Is it something, every time I've heard or people who have interviewed, they have always told that the guru appears in your life,
Mhm.
a sadguru appears in your life. Is that what happened? Is that how it turned out for you as well, Vishal?
If you had asked me, maybe I've been practicing for 25 years,
Wow.
more than 25 now, 2027 actually. Yeah. In February of 26, it's 27th anniversary. Yeah. So
Wow.
now, this, I have a privilege to connect the dots. And now I can absolutely say what you just suggested. To me, I didn't choose it. And the path came to me. Yeah. And the guru came to me. How
Right.
it came, it's an interesting story. I was in the US after um, my engineering in now it's called NIT Raipur. I always wanted to go out, do higher studies, and was able to go to my college in Detroit, Wayne State University. And I grew up in a very small town, actually in Bastar district. My entire schooling was in an iron ore mines project where my dad was working, central government mines area. Beautiful place. I feel blessed to be actually there with good school, no distraction of big cities, natural, surrounded by forests.
Wow.
Um, and then moved to Raipur, did 4 years of engineering, and then suddenly to US. Big change in the culture, big change, from a frog moving from a small pond to a big. And I believe that big change also created a kind of a what I should say, a disconnect within me,
Hmm.
because what I used to see myself as a good student among the small pool in a small pond, suddenly in a big, lake, was finding, not up to the mark, with the newer set of standards. Maybe those were the things, that was how I was, uh, um, you know, judging myself. I was literally judging myself, and I would find myself inferior to my own standards more and more. There was this chasm, a gap,
Mm.
chasm where I was finding myself not up to the mark where I thought I should have been, and I think it was a condition of a depression. I was probably undergoing depression. I was not liking myself, and I got a job, and all of those things were going very nice in my field. But somehow, I don't know where that came. A prayer came to my conscience. So in the morning, Detroit is very cold mornings. You have to warm your. In those days, a diesel engine. Nowadays, US don't have those cars. Volkswagen Jetta, my uncle gave it, and you had to warm it for some time. So those 2 3 minutes, I would close my eye, and I would just put this prayer out, a generic prayer, not to any particular God, but to a higher power, that may I become today slightly better than what I was yesterday.
Okay.
Simple prayer. I have now full conviction. It is that prayer which drew the attention and brought this path, the guru, whatever way you want to call it, the journey, it attracted me towards it.
Yeah.
Situation changed, my location changed. I moved to Atlanta, and within a month after moving, got to see a flyer, learned to meditate, in open house in Georgia Tech University. I was always interested in meditation. I had read one book only on Swami Vivekananda's life, and I was very, very inspired by. I wanted to learn. That sometime did on my own. Once in the college days, got an experience also on my own, and was, blissful experience which I never could get repeat, but never knew how to do it. So this flyer I saw, I showed up there. I was a bachelor that time. A lot of time was there, and in the Georgia Tech University, I was always fond of, good schools, good universities, and there was a big auditorium, about 15 people, 20 people sitting, and they were talking about it. I was not impressed, nothing really big. Okay, I heard, and I was walking out from the event, and one of the trainers, who was also part of the organizer, he talked to me. He stopped me. He said, "Okay, he said one thing. He said, see, to judge any kind of a spiritual practice, you have to try it. You have to experience it. It's like, to taste any mango or a fruit, you have to eat it. He said, at
Correct.
least give about 3 months. So try it." And then he not only told me that, but he held my hand. He invited me to his home every weekend, and that's how I came into it, and it literally changed my life. Yes.
Wow.
Mm.
That's
He's
actually
is still a very, very dear friend and a mentor, always like an elder brother to me. And he himself is a entrepreneur, and a very, successful entrepreneur, I would say.
wow. I think that little prayer, a simple prayer of yours, got answered through him. I must say, right? He was the medium for you to, walk this path. Now, I think the main question for which you and me got connected today is, what is heartfulness meditation?
Sure. So, Priyanka, the word, the way it says heartfulness,
Yeah.
everybody has heard of mindfulness, right? And
Yeah.
simple understanding of mindfulness. You're always aware. You're all in the present. You're in the present moment. You're aware. You're mindful of whatever you're doing mindfully, right?
Yeah.
You're not like thinking something else and doing something else. Heartfulness is a one step beyond the mind. The mind itself is more of the cognitive function, but in if you really see the our my understanding of our yogic literature, the mind also includes the heart, essentially. So heartfulness is really shifting the focus from the cognitive only mind to the feeling centered heart. Feelings always come from the heart, right? We always say this is such a warm person and a heart full person. We always describe people by their heart, because we always say we understand every culture that the essence of something lies in the heart of that thing.
Yeah.
The usage also says go into the heart of the thing,
Yeah.
learn by heart. He's such a good hearted person. We describe people by heart. And if you look at Gita, Shri Krishna, when Arjun asks him, where should I look for you? Where should I find you? Where should a person look for you? He said, Hridaya ma pashyati, look into your heart. So all culture says the essence, the purity remains in the heart of the person. Heartfulness is a method or a practice which trains oneself to learn to connect to one's heart and the very pure essence within the heart, and remain connected. So we start acting out of our decisions, our actions, everything we're doing heartfully, just like the mindfully awareness, but we're doing heartfully. And heart has the navigation of what is right or what is wrong. In my understanding, these two faculties are so beautifully designed by nature. Our cognition is great in logic. It can do math. It can do, okay, if I do this, this will happen. If I do that, that will happen. But which one is right, which one I should do, this is not designed for that question. Slight digression, if I may.
Sure.
Quote, or rather for your reader or for your viewers, um, the American physicist, surely you are joking. The book is he goes by, surely you're joking, Professor. I'm forgetting his name. Sorry. Um, uh, he's an American physicist, and he writes about this very much, that logic can only tell you what is right, what if I do this, this will happen. If I do
Mm-hmm.
that, happen. But should I do that? That comes into the zone of ethics, morality, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mind, a logical mind, science cannot tell you that.
Yeah.
That faculty is the heart,
Mm-hmm.
and that is innately present in everybody. Um, Feynman, Richard Feynman, Dr. Richard Feynman, he was the one I was talking about. His books is amazing. Everybody, I suggest, with any buddy interested in the wonderful inquiry about life, should, it's not a science book, and he writes in a very simple way. Surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman is the book.
Okay.
And then there's couple more books by him. So yeah, so that's the key about heartfulness, that we are always connected with the heart, and whatever we do, we respond with the heart, and naturally our actions get aligned with nature's action. So you tend to do less mistakes. You naturally, your decisions are more correct. So all of these things fall in place.
Interesting. So what's the end goal, or is there any, like, how does one start? Is it you graduate from one level to other, or it's like, there's nothing as such. It is just, once you get to know what it is, you continue to do it lifelong. So how does that process happen with this meditation?
Yeah. So this meditation, actually, heartfulness is a set of practices, where
Okay.
meditation is one of the practices.
Okay.
It is, yes, that's one of the things. often we are very everybody is aware. I mean, meditation is such a now global term that although the English word does not do justice to the word dhyana, what
Mm-hmm.
it means, because there is no equivalent. See, a lot of these English translations are just because whatever is available. Often, when we can go that on that a little bit later on what is the understanding of meditation, but let me give from a higher level. This practice includes actually three practices,
Okay.
um, and they are very very carefully, you can say, designed or very thoughtfully designed. The meditation aspect is to be done in the morning, or as best as the earliest part of the day, where we learn to settle our mind on our heart. So the practice itself is a heart centered meditation.
Okay.
Meditation in simplest term is to think about one thing at a time, right? You could meditate on an object. You can meditate on a process. It has nothing to do with good or bad or spirituality even.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Even criminals, the terms is used is a premeditated murder, right? So it's just to think about something focused way is meditation in simplest term, right? But here the meditation is on the heart, so we meditate or bring our attention our heart. Ultimately there are lots of benefits, but the real change comes is the regulation of mind.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that, our minds are usually used to always keep working in the waking hours and also during sleeping hours. Usually that's why we don't get good sleep, because its mind is not resting.
Mm.
And thought factory is going crazy. It's like a unbelievable, and it's only increasing. By meditation, we are regulating this mind, optimizing it, so only those thoughts are functioning which are needed at that time.
Okay.
Thoughts which are not needed, if they pop up, you don't give attention, and automatically they drop.
Okay.
Guess what is the fuel for a thought? Any thought that comes in my mind, it needs some power. It draws power or fuel from somewhere. That fuel is my own attention.
Yeah.
The more you give attention to a thought,
Yeah.
the more powerful it becomes. You see the power of this understanding, which means if I start thinking, oh, I am not up to the mark, remember the state I was in. I was accelerating that state even more. I was
Mm.
giving more and more fuel. Oh, I'm not good. I'm not good. And I'm becoming more and more of that, right? That's what
Yeah.
if you call manifestation. So that's what happens. And now in meditation, we are training ourselves to not pay attention on things which are not needed, and let my attention naturally settle on the object where I want it to, which
Mm-hmm.
in this case is the heart, or the purity or the essence of purity in my heart. So by doing over and over every day morning, your mind is getting regulated, which means focus is developing naturally, because you're so good in not paying attention to distractions, right? So that's the first part of it. Mind's regulation comes from meditation. But this alone is not the only thing about heartfulness. There is a second practice, which is the game changer for me. And I would say in the overall spiritual domain, what is
Mm-hmm.
spiritual is about self improvement, domain of self improvement. That practice is called the cleansing practice or the
Okay.
cleaning practice. It is supposed to be done in the evening part and for about 30 minutes. And the effect of it is really, really foundational. On one hand, and it's very complementary to the meditation practice,
Okay.
right? So this cleaning practice, the focus, why it should be done. So what it is, the purpose of cleaning practice is to clean the impressions which we have developed in our subconscious.
Yeah.
And if I take an example, everything in external world, we are so used to seeing that it gets dirty. Anything that we use gets dirty. whether it's my body, my clothes, my spectacles, and we clean it regularly. Our homes. What about our mind? We use our mind all the time.
Yeah.
So the mind also has this tendency of picking up dirt or impressions. And what are those impressions? These are the emotional imprints that fall upon us during the daytime or nighttime. Basically, anything our mind processes, if it has an emotional element to it, somebody said something bad to you and you felt bad, we carry that feeling of bad. Or it could be our own self inflicted one. All of these things everybody goes through, relationships or an office with peers. Somebody made a comment, somebody criticized, somebody compared, judgments, prejudgments, all of those things, right? Reactions of people. These are constantly coming. Social media, these impressions our mind is carrying. It's almost like I'm going through a muddy road and all the splash of dirt is coming on my clothes. What will happen? We're carrying those dirt and not really able to clean it, and new dirt comes over it, a layer and layer and layer we are depositing. And
Yeah.
that is how my understanding is our tendencies, our behaviors get formed. Our reactions, you mentioned this word beautifully, the reaction versus response. These reactions come from these impressions which have formed over the years. And actually, neuroscience understands it in a beautiful way. That's how we learn anything. The neurons which fire together wire together.
Hmm.
That is how it works. That's how we learn anything.
Yeah.
And this hardwiring is happening on an emotional level also. If, let's say, some boy falls in the water first time, he develops a little bit of fear from the water. God forbid, second time again he falls, the fear deepens. God forbid, third time again it happens. The person, when he grows up, will stay away from water. There's a inner sense of, and the person may not even know why. And this kind of hardwiring we are carrying, all of us, in different ways. That is what creates the reactions in us. That is what creates certain behaviors in us. So this cleaning practice actually works at that level. With our own intention, power of intention, we are removing the impressions that we have accumulated, and that changes my personality right from very within. So this kind of empties the pot.
Hmm.
Meditation is about filling the empty pot with divinity, but the pot has to be emptied first. If it's not empty, if it's already full, no matter how much meditation I do, the good stuff will just spill over, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the second element. Now, if I may take few seconds for third one, which is the nighttime practice. It's called a bedtime prayer meditation practice.
Okay.
Like, very easy to do, because very easy to integrate in your life, because everybody goes to sleep. Before
Yes.
you lie down on the bed, you
Yeah.
sit on the bed and you just spend a few minutes, and in a prayerful, with humility, a heart full of prayers, we aspire for our purpose. We reflect, okay, where I ought to be, where I'm heading, where I need to be. We reflect on the goal, where I should be. Then we also reflect on where I am right now, what kind of problems I am stuck with. I'm trying, but all these problems I'm stuck. With a humility, with accepting ourselves, ki, okay, I am what I am with all my flaws and limitations, but I really want to be there. So I remind my goal, I accept where I am, and then I aspire with that higher power which is within me, which is all perfect. And we ask, or rather long, to get help from that power itself to pull me up. So it's a prayer without asking anything, but accepting ourselves and reminding of my own goal, but doing on a daily purpose.
Wow.
When
This.
that, like, if I may just, in corporate world, we're
Sure.
so focused about goals and targets, and you've been also there, and we remind ourselves, okay, we have to complete this by this time. What about the goal of my own life's project, right? How many times do I remember that? How many times do I remind myself of that? So this third element is about reminding myself of my goal, because when I do remind daily basis, nightly basis, I align myself to that. So that's how these three practices form a cohesive, holistic practice for what's called a heartfulness.
This is absolutely magical, and it is so soothing to actually listen to this what you said just now. But I like to ask you one follow up question on the last point that you said. Right, many a times all of us don't know what is the purpose of our life. So
Yes.
how does one know that, right? So
Beautiful.
it's beautiful for us to
Yes.
pray towards the end of the day and say that, okay, I am here to accept myself. I want to basically connect and say that I am here to do my life purpose. How does one know that? And that's, I think, question of everyone out
Yes.
there.
Absolutely. You bang on, it's $1 million question, $1 billion question, right? But
Yeah.
I will answer with one question to you only. Okay.
Sure. Sure.
So tell me what, according to you, is the purpose of a seed?
To germinate.
To germinate, right?
Yeah.
To grow. You can say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Seed, any seed carries a potential of something, right? If it's a seed of a rose plant, it has a potential of becoming a rose plant. If it is a seed of a mango tree, the seed has a potential to become a fully blown mango tree which bears mango, which we eat and everybody enjoys.
Yeah.
And I asked this question, maybe once or twice somebody would have given a different answer, but even kids would tadak se answer comes, it's like a no-brainer, right? So now if I put the perspective of human life in terms of a potential that Priyanka is carrying, Priyanka has a potential to become a better Priyanka, better version, better version. There's no end to this betterment of Priyanka, the perfection that you can, because we all carry different kinds of flaws and limitations. So, can we accept this that, okay, let's say among many, one of the purposes for me also to, for Priyanka is also to grow.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think nobody has any disagreement with that. So I would say stick to that itself. You don't need any other purpose. If that purpose is resonating with your heart, then my purpose is to become a better version of myself. That's enough. That is enough. That is the only thing needed for that motivation, for that drive, is that yes, I want to become a better version of myself. And you can take all different kinds of know um, phrases, growth mindset. All of these were actually part of our yogic literature. One of the beautiful verses from, I believe, Rigveda is ano bhadra yatro kritvo yantu vishwata. Let noble thought come from any direction. These are all, that's a growth mindset, right? It's all about personal growth. For me, now to me, it's that is the as clear as that. I mean, that is the purpose. Now with that personal growth, what one does is different. People will do differently. A journalist with a better journalist would do a different work. A scientist would do a different work. A sustainable scientist like you and Suchak would an impact. Ultimately, it's about to make an impact which is larger than oneself, to make the world, the people around you, better than what we were, to leave the world better than what we were given to. I mean, those are the second aspect, I would say, the manifestation or the outcome of the purpose. But the purpose is to grow. I mean, that's enough of a purpose for me.
Great, great, Visha. No, I'm asking you from a different perspective here, see, because there are many different spiritual practices out there, right? Some of them, they say that, your end goal as a human being is to come here, come on planet Earth, experience certain things that your soul wants to experience, and that is why you are here Some of them, they say that, it is because of your karma you are here. You have to bear the fruits of your karma, experience it here, good, bad, ugly, and then go back. Some of them, they say that the end goal is to, basically go back to your source. Some say that, go and meet in the white light. So there
Correct.
are various versions out there, and this is, I think, most practical version that I have heard so far. That, it is as simple as just grow and be a beautiful,
Yes.
a better version of you than what you have been so far, right? And it looks so practical, it looks so convincing for someone, as ordinary as me, to accept it as well. It doesn't become like very fancy or not achievable when somebody says, yeah, you have to go back and meet your source. What is
Yeah.
the source? At the
This is
moment, I
sport.
don't know. I don't know what the source is.
Absolutely. I mean, those were the questions in my mind too. When in the beginning, when I was exposed to this, and one thing I found beautifully in the teachings of heartfulness is that this is not a belief based system. That's a big difference, big unique differentiator. It's an experience based system, right?
Okay.
Don't need to believe in anything that doesn't make sense to you. You just have to proceed based on the experience and outcomes, changes that you see within yourself. And I'm not denying or against any of those things that you
Yeah.
mentioned. In
Yeah.
fact, those things will unravel as we move forward,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a journey to infinity.
Okay.
The perfection will never end. And if I have to explain in a scientific manner, there's a curve, they call it asymptotic curve. It goes like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is always tending towards meeting whatever the angle becoming 0 degree, but it never, every time it becomes half of whatever the distance was left. And it literally goes towards, because that distance will never come, right? And that's beautifully aligns with our spiritual yogic texts also, of, as you were saying, meeting the source, until the Mahapralaya will come, journey will continue. You can all relate to that, but we don't need to really believe any of that, because, as you said, simplest thing is, am I becoming better? Do I still have room for improvement? If I have room for improvement, then I have work to do. Focus
Yeah.
on that. That's all, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this was quite interesting, Vishal, what you covered so far about heartfulness meditation. Is there anything that we as listeners, or we who somebody who's new to heartfulness meditation, not know, other than what we have spoken so far, right?
So yeah, Priyanka ji, we covered about the key practices and why it's called heartfulness and the kind of holistic change it brings. I guess there is one aspect which makes it very unique
Okay.
uh, among all aspects, which is the concept of something called yogic transmission.
Okay.
In Sanskrit, this word or this term is called pranahuti.
Right.
uh, Pranahuti is like prana's ahuti, right? And
Yeah.
what it really means, to my understanding, is the in one description it is described as pranasya prana in one
Mm-hmm.
of the Upanishad, which really means the life of the life. And doing the pranahuti or ahuti of that, it means transmitting the essence of life from oneself to into other self, from one heart into the another heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real thing, is something to be experienced. Do not take my word. As I say in heartfulness, nothing is belief based. And this, what happens is, the trainer, there are 16,000 or around 17,000 trainers in heartfulness around the world.
Okay.
It's an international organization, present in 160 plus countries. And these trainers give this training at no cost. There is no money it charged. It's a these are volunteers. So I'm also a trainer, and anybody who's interested, we fix up an appointment and we figure out a time, and uh, within both our schedules, and the trainer is able to transmit this yogic transmission into the heart of the other person who's, and that makes a big difference in learning to meditate,
Okay. Okay.
in achieving the state of mind which is calm and balanced. And it with the pranahuti or the transmission, it process becomes more simplified and easier for a new beginner than without it.
Okay. Okay.
I often tell, coming from a engineering background and scientific bent of mind, and I always tell especially youth, you do an experiment. Do not take my word. Take an experiment. The method of meditation is simple. Bring your attention to your heart, and there is a step 1, 2, 3. You do it without the yogic transmission part and record your experience, then do with the trainer transmitting to you with that, and you see the difference, and then you analyze and see the difference. So that is one of the very key unique differentiator of this practice. Yeah.
So, can is it safe to say that as if somebody is initiating someone into this practice? Can we say it that way? Because
I mean,
usually the word is used generally in the in the
in
practice.
spiritual practices, but I have not, meaning, many people use it, but it generally, the term I've heard, or we as a trainer uses, introductory sessions. So there are
Okay.
3 introductory sessions in which the person needs to take an appointment of, it's usually 3 consecutive days.
Okay.
And in these 3 days also the 3 elements are covered, the meditation, the cleaning, and the
Yeah.
third day the prayer. And the beginner would meditate with the trainer, so you get a hang of it. But yes, in a way you can call it initiation, but generally that term is not used in
Okay.
heartfulness. Introductory sessions are the what was used. Yeah.
Got it. So, if somebody who is already practicing any particular meditation practice can also come and learn this, or
Absolutely.
is there any?
So absolutely, they can. Only guidance as a trainer we give is, when you're practicing heartfulness, do this one alone, and you, if you're doing the other practice, do that one. Compare it, which one you work well for you. I mean, do not mix
Correct.
inter. Yes. And a lot of times people say, oh, I do puja, normal puja. I mean, those practices can all continue. uh,
Yeah,
you don't have to stop doing any kind of other worship or going to temple. None of that you have to stop. It has very less don'ts. It is only what more do's, what you need to do. Yeah, yeah.
that's nice. Nice. So, Vishal, you mentioned that a flyer came to you, on the meditation. You were going through a low phase where you were doubting about yourself, and this meditation came to your life. So, what is the origin of heartfulness meditation?
So see, this meditation practice actually also called by Sahaj Sahaj Marg.
Okay.
Um, it's founded by a organization called Sri Ram Chandra Mission,
Okay.
and it's a more than 100-year-old practice. In
Okay.
fact, it was originated, you can say, in Uttar Pradesh, in India, by a person named Ramchandra. His name was Ramchandra, and he was a child prodigy born in 1873, who invented this art of, or I wouldn't say invented, is the wrong word, who rediscovered this art of yogic transmission, which
Okay.
is very, very core and essence and a unique practice used within this practice. And his one of his disciple or follower, also named as Ramchandra, he was
Okay.
also from Uttar Pradesh, Shahjahanpur, Uttar Pradesh. He perfected or created these different sub practices that we talked about, meditation, cleaning. So so Sri Ramchandra Mission was founded by Babaji from Shahjahanpur. And today there is this practice always has a global guide, in a living guide. And the living guide currently for heartfulness is, his name is Kamlesh D Patel.
Hmm.
Also affectionately he goes by Daji. and
Okay.
amazing personality. I have known him for more than 20 plus years, since my days in the United States when he was a practitioner. He's a very successful entrepreneur in pharmacy world in New York, and now he lives in Kana Shanti Vanam, which is the headquarters, world headquarters for the Heartfulness organization. And amazing thing, he has many things he's done. He's a prolific writer, author, Padma Bhushan, also Sammanit, and the great, I would say, sustainable, and you would like this part, scientists, if I may use that word. The place Kana Shanti Vanam, which was a very dry and arid place about 6 7 years ago, is now transformed into a lush green place with much higher water table, and all of this because of the efforts from Daji. So it's a haven with spiritual environment as well as a natural green environment with real scientific ways of growing things around. He spends most of his time in helping others learn this practice. So that's he's the real, I would say, inspiration for me and for most people who follow this practice. Yes.
Lovely. Was it easy for you to accept this practice, or was there any hesitation from you or from your parents, when you first decided 27 years back?
There were lots of hesitation, and I believe again very culturally, right? We're grown into with some kind of a suspicion towards spiritual practices.
Yeah.
And biggest, fear is the right word for parents is, अरे कहीं ये बच्चा कहीं ब्रह्मचारी तो ना बन जाए, संन्यास ना ले ले,
Yeah. Yeah.
what my kid will go into, bachelorhood, or this kind of life. And people look upon such practices with such a suspicion, and I had that too. But one thing which struck me almost very immediately when I kind of joined this and met people who were practicing it, most people were very well placed in their material life, right? They were executives, they were in different domains, some doctors, some entrepreneurs, some students, all walks of life, well accomplished, and practicing this. That gave me a lot of comfort. If I hadn't seen that, I probably would not have continued. And now I see, and maybe I have become also one beneficiary, that it practice itself has helped me achieve the levels in my professional life which maybe I probably would not have. And I see so many examples in the business world, in the corporate world, and I have a firm belief the era we are going with all the advances in AI and ML, where the AI is catching up with our cognitive abilities. Humans need to drive our quotient, the human quotient, couple of notches above AI, which
Mm-hmm.
means we need to find what is unique to humans, which AI cannot catch up. And that, to me, is in our hearts, our feelings, our consciousness. We need to identify, we need to evolve, we need to expand that element. So AI comes as a tool, just like a hammer is to me a tool, and AI becomes a cognitive assistant tool. But
Yes.
humans is at a level above, and spirituality is the only way for us to take us there. In my
Very beautifully put, Vishal. I mean, I'm really impressed with the answer that you have put, right? And it is uh, need of the hour as well. The way AI is progressing, I think it is important for us to identify that quotient and, up our game is what I will say.
up our game, exactly, and I'm all for it, and
Yeah,
I'm ready to help others who wants to learn this. Yes.
sure, sure. So
Mhm.
now I think we have covered the aspect of meditation as well briefly. Of course, now in the interest of time, I would now like to understand from you your personal experiences, right? Any anything that you would like to share with us since you started meditation? Of course, you talked about the depression part of yours that slowly, came down. You've become a calm person, but any particular incident that is really, close to your heart that happened after you started meditating?
Yeah. Well, that's I mean, lots of
I'm
incidents.
sure there
Or
are many.
yes, there are. Maybe what would be worthwhile or useful for um, for your viewers. See, always one needs some kind of a experience before we get a hooked onto it, right? When you really see the, and there are many, and I've heard from many such practitioners that something happened to. For me, there wasn't one dramatic kind of an incident which was like I was floored or wowed, but I remember those days I was very career focused person. I was my new job was doing that, and I was doing an MBA, also going to night. It was a in US in Atlanta college in the night. So morning day shift for work, and then going to college, coming back in a train. It was a metro there. Um, so I used to do the cleaning aspects while coming back on the train, right? And I would feel all that weariness, after a very long day, you kind of get tired, right? By the time my station would come, that kind of big heaviness load is like lifted off, and I
Mhm.
would feel fresh. That was one very quick, tangible kind of return of investment, I could
Yeah.
see, which was interesting. Then I would say one of the biggest decision point for me
Mhm.
was the decision to return to India,
Yeah.
right? After
I'm
15
sure it
years.
must. Yeah.
And it wasn't easy by no means, even though I was always, since I had gone there, I was clear that I want to come back. And I'm told my uncle, an amazing soul he is, been my mentor. He's settled in the US. His name is Yogendra Hangdale. Uh, he had guided me that everybody comes, those who come to US have this similar in aspiration to return. Out of that, maybe 50% try it. After that, 50% really persist in that. Out of that, really 50% their spouses will have different interest,
Yeah.
and all of that, then their kids, all of those things starts, and in the end very few are able to. He had given me very pragmatic thing, a set expectation. But he gave me one one very good practical advice: if you want to return before your kids become 5 years of age, right before. And there was a very practical milestone set in my mind, and I was already delayed by 2 years. My son was 7 years, and we decided to move back. And was worst time to sell a house because it was 2010. It was a downturn, the great recession time. uh, Lots of difficulties even during moving, second thoughts, third thoughts, am I doing the right thing? And if I hadn't been meditating and associated with this practice, I would have buckled. I would have buckled and rolled back, all of that thing would have happened. But during that trying time, number of times I sat in meditation. One time with a trainer helped me. I was like so confused, my mind was not working, and clear guidance came, so clear that I had to, like, no doubts. And if after that whatever comes you face, you go through. And today if I look back, and in my family also look back, my wife, we are so thankful that we were able to persist. That's just one example. So in trying times, my recourse is to sit, go into meditation, present the problem to the higher self which is within me, without any expecting any particular answer.
Mm-hmm.
See, when you go to a doctor with a pain or a disease or a condition, we don't tell the doctor, hey, give me this medicine. That's
Yeah.
the doctor's business.
Yeah.
Same, if you really are connected with a higher power and you think they can help, he can help, present the problem and wait for the answer. Sometime it comes, sometime it does not come. If it does not come, then you wait. So there are many such instances that the guidance come from within, the strengths come from within, and you are really taken through, supported throughout that journey. Yes, that's the feeling I get.
I think, Vishal, I'm now going to bring you back as a corporate leader because that's something is very interesting and important message for all of us who are in corporate world today, right? You spoke about how we can respond rather than react, connect to that person heart to heart, understand if what somebody is trying to say, rather than judging quickly or reacting, right? We spoke about that very in the beginning. Now my question to you is, you have been practicing more than 2 decades, you're into heartfulness meditation, you've spoken about many a times you've been guided by your own inner higher self. You sometimes you got answers, sometimes you didn't get answers, right? But you have to wait and watch and listen to that answer. Now would like to understand, as being a corporate leader, playing such a big role in an enterprise organization, I'm sure there might have been various situations where you had to take decisions under pressure. How do you manage that? And do you want to share an example? How did you manage a particular situation which had tremendous pressure to handle?
Sure. A very, very practical and realistic question, Priyanka. As a for me, it has come very naturally, right? Fortunately, if I would say, I picked up the practice way before I took up the ladder in corporate, right? So I
Yeah,
grew
yeah,
within corporate, and in fact, I wouldn't hesitate to say that it has helped me to take up this path and to grow as a leader. So how it has helped? See, one aspect of a leader is the awareness, the self awareness, and the awareness of what you would say your team, your organization, and the larger context where you are. See, one of the key challenges for leaders is to align the goals of one team towards the goals of the corporate, the company itself,
yeah,
in the large context of the industry and the market forces, and that keeps shifting and changing. And a leader needs to always do this facilitation part, that the team is working with their best effort and inputs aligned, beautifully aligned with the corporate higher goals of the company has. This can come, you know this requires a decent amount of, I would say, awareness of the situation, of the individual level itself, and the awareness of what's the overall big picture is, and then motivating and inspiring the individuals to align their efforts with their best effort and with their best skills to the company's need. So when these forces, in a big way, if you see, are aligned towards one direction, you are creating a massive big force, force multiplier, if you want to call it, as opposed to, if as typically large organizations, typically where I see the challenge happens is when these forces, internal forces itself, are pointing at each other, right? That creates friction, and that's where a lot of energy is spent in managing these internal frictions, because alignment is not there. So that is one area where how it helps. Connecting with people is important, and aligning their interests, their skills, with the company's goals and interests, right? That's one big thing. Now, other part you mentioned is decision making, right? Decision in under challenging, under pressure times, and there are times where there is no good decision. You have to take two bad decisions, and you have to really, weigh in which one is the less worse, right? So again, here, what has helped? One is a calm mindset itself prevents many of the possibilities of mistakes and wrong decisions. See, often problem comes when stress comes into our mind, our being, because stress has a natural tendency of what you call as enhancing one's sympathetic response, which blocks one's rational thinking, and if it is too high, and it gets into what called an amygdala hijack situation, where you can only think flight or fight responses, and decisions in such state of mind will invariably be damaging to the larger context. For somebody who is not affected, it's like a pressure situation. It's like, last ball you need 6 runs, and the batsman is batting. If he or she thinks about all these things, they can't perform at the best. At that time, their focus needs to be right on the ball. That's it, and nothing else, right? And they can execute it the best way. So that state of mind comes with a state of practice of meditation, that you are focused on the situation itself, not overwhelming yourself with repercussions and consequences of what could go wrong. That itself helps, or I have seen me helping in taking the right decisions, or taking the decision which at that moment I feel is the right one. And when, even though things can go wrong, one doesn't feel bad, because I acted out of whatever was the best thing at that time. It might have, or later on, be being looked at as a wrong thing, but you don't regret, because at that time you are doing the best, which is what I can do. you
Yeah.
know if I can perform at my best, that's all I can do, really, right? And meditative state helps one achieve that.
Yeah, yeah. Great, Vishal. But again, I think I want to ask you a further follow-up question on this. But I'm sorry for my language here, but there
Please.
are people who might be, in spite of you being right, you being aware, you being, you're trying your best to connect to that person heart to heart. But in spite of that, you might have pain in the asses kind of
Right.
personalities around you.
Yeah.
How do you, tackle that
Yeah.
particular individual, right?
Yeah.
Because you tried everything in your capacity, being nice. Sometimes being nice is taken as if, as
Advantage.
your, yeah. So how does one take decision or act in that situation?
Right. No, very good. I've seen this firsthand. In fact, what you said, the second part, often that happens. People
Yeah,
think, oh, this is the calm guy. He would not react. He would not, and you, some people really take advantage of it. Uh,
exactly.
so actually, uh, I wouldn't say my people who work with me um, would say this, that they were never under pressure to do work, or to you know in fact, my way of working was, although I would connect at them at a human level, but I would go for deeper into things, what they can't simply kind of make a story out, and why something was not done. So so when it comes to work, and when it comes to what needs to be done, there is no being meditative or calm doesn't mean you become relaxed, or you become loose in fact, your definitions of perfection increases.
Yeah,
So I become actually often a pain in the ass for them if the level of perfection is not to the perfection that I want to see. And you would want to see a higher level of perfection in everything. If something is not done to the right level, it pains, and they'll get from the communication. So that aspect is very much there.
yeah,
And the other part, people who I had that one, when a particular incident, if I remember, absolute, what I would say, long mail, one of those people who kind of dump everything they should have mind into a mail, and write it in a big one, right, on a big list with a lot of recipients. Often in that situation, how do you respond to that, right? So my ways of doing things normally is to just connect directly with that person, right? And many times that itself solves it. No, instead of replying back a reply, all a reply, pick up a phone and call, and then the person completely changes. And in some cases, their degree is even higher. Sometimes I simply had to drop the whole thing, not worrying about justifying because it was not productive. It wouldn't have uh, earned me anything, or my team or the company, to prove I was right. At that point, it just fine. Whatever you think, we move on. I have other things to do. So you kind of take a decision on what is really the right battle to take on and what's not.
yeah.
I'm not here to change somebody, right? But as long as for the company, something has to be done, then I would fight. And if not, if it's only a matter of his perception of me, it doesn't matter. you know so move
Makes
on.
sense. So
Mhm.
I think this was beautifully put forward, because many a times, like, people tend to think that, okay, now he's like a Gandhi, if I slap.
No, no.
on his one cheek,
Brilliant.
he's going to, offer me his other one. So this is great, Vishal. I think this is important, and I think I like your last line where you say that you have to identify and understand which battle you want to fight. Where you want to put your energy and where you
Correct.
don't want to. So very beautifully said, Vishal. I think now the second most important part, or the most defined, or the most spoken topic in corporate world is success, right? Everybody wants to be successful. We define success. We know you have goals, you have to achieve those goals, and so on and so forth. But personally also, for a human being, you take goals. And what I understood is heartfulness definitely helps you grow as an individual. So, how have you defined your success now after practicing meditation for so many years?
I think the answer you said in your own words for me. As long as um, I see myself growing in any
Okay.
process, I
Yeah.
see as a success in that process. To me, success definition is just, if one is evolving, all these words are also very big word. But essentially, if before entering the process I was this, and after exiting, if I am slightly better person, I think that was a successful process. you know if you apply this formula, every failure becomes a success. If I'm learning from it
Yeah.
and I'm changing myself, it becomes a success. So that is my simple formula. If I'm growing, I'm successful.
Wonderful. I think with this, we are coming to the end of this episode. So, while we are parting, with all our listeners, do you have any particular message for them?
Well, these days everybody gets a lot of messages, lots of gyan from everywhere. And often we get overwhelmed कि भाई क्या करें, what should we do? So I would say, sometimes it's okay to just let loose
Yeah.
and get a quiet time to reflect, to connect with oneself. Answers are all within, and these things are not fake or illusionary that in scriptures have written. All answers are within you, and I have experienced it for 27 years. All I would say is, give it a chance. You can do in a reflection mode. Any hobby itself, to spend some time completely, that's an act of meditation.
Absolutely.
Meditation is nothing but the one aspect, if I may add again, I was saying the meditation is not a true transition of the Hindi word or the Sanskrit word dhyan. So the dhyan actually comes from two words, dhi and yan.
Mm-hmm.
Dhi means ultimate wisdom, and yan is a vehicle which takes one to the ultimate wisdom. So essentially, it's a vehicle which takes us to the higher or greater wisdom, and that's what made it. And it can be achieved in many ways. So I would say my only message would be, give this practice a chance, and you may find a lot of answers, or you may find many questions disappear themselves. Mhm.
Lovely. I think with that note, I would like to thank you personally on behalf of the Awakening Trail and my entire listeners for doing this episode with us, sharing your personal experiences, your growth stories, and also your pitfalls, right? When you had this small depression episode. So, thank you so much, Vishal, for being honest and doing this episode with us.
Thoroughly enjoyed, Priyanka, in sharing my journey and also this conversation. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you.